Rosie Foley, good morning to you.
Good morning, how are you?
Flying it, how are you keeping?
Oh, there's no fear of me. I live in a madhouse, but other than that, I'm fine.
Congratulations, that is amazing. So to give people an idea, if they have missed this over the last week, you previously had swam the Channel at 33.5 kilometres, the Manhattan Island swim 45.9 kilometres, and now the Catalina Channel swim of 32.3 kilometres. It's the triple crown of open water swims, and you're just the second Irish woman to do it. Congrats, it's an amazing achievement.
Oh, listen, it's my own triple crown. As you know, Anthony with rugby had a triple crown with the Irish men's rugby team. I missed out on the women's doing so well, Fiona Coughlin and the girls. So I set about, I suppose, getting my own triple crown. So when I first started, I didn't really know much about triple crowns as in open water ones. And once I kind of got a whiff of that there was a possibility of having a triple crown of my own, I suppose it's like everything else. You mentioned Damien Damien Brown. So Damien Brown started his epic journey on the day that I swam around New York. So there's a few parallels there with second rows in Irish rugby for sure. So I mean, yeah, so this is something that I have, but like everything, it's a very much a team effort in our house. Like my poor long-suffering husband, Pat Minogue, and my three kids that have to put up with it. Now, Oisín was 17 yesterday, so Oisín is 17, Brendy is 15, and Shifra is 12, nearly 13. So they've had to put up with a lot, and then I have fantastic backroom friends, if you like, who support me all the way. So like the likes of Fanula Walsh and Andrea Newport, like I couldn't do it without them. And God help me, my poor parents are just blue in the face from what is she at now? And like, I'm turning 50, please God, in 2 weeks' time. And I'd say they're just, you know, is she ever going to stop and leave us in peace, really, you know?
Yeah. And it sounds like you might not, but we might come to that conversation in a little bit. And in terms of the number of people, like there's only 279 people worldwide that have actually done this before. That puts the achievement in context for people. How long does it take you to swim that distance?
Listen, it was over 16 hours in that case, but it's the most beautiful swim. The water is 22, 23 degrees. You start at night, so you take a 2-hour journey on your support boat out as far as Catalina Island from the California mainland. And the stars were out the same night, so I've been really lucky with weather-wise and that. And you go out to Catalina Island, you get into the water, you have to clear the water to get to clear sand before you start, but it's a night swim, and I remember before I got off the boat to jump into the water, I saw a sea lion heading towards the shore, and I thought this is a good luck omen. Got into the water and I just thought, my God, it was like being in the bath here in Killaloo, you know. I just thought, Jesus, this is great. So I was really lucky that way. Lots of pods of dolphins, lots of sea lions, and I had another fantastic, as you know, the world of sport, you have great friends, and I had the most fantastic kayaker who's a really good friend of mine, Grace van der Bly, who actually holds the record for that crossing. Right. And a really good friend of mine who's based in the States, who's American, is Jenny Smith, and she was only fresh from doing the Marble Arch to the Arc de Triomphe, which is a run of 87 miles. She swam the English Channel in her bikini for the second time and then cycled to Paris during what's called the Enduro Man there about 6 weeks ago. So she was also my support team with my great friend Fanula Walsh on board as well, because this was a very last minute cancellation that I got, and I just thought the stars have aligned. We better go do this now before you're 50, get your triple crown done, and celebrate in style, really, I suppose is kind of where it goes. But yeah, very lucky to get it done this year.
Fanula, I think, is one of the ones that was the other one has gone before you, if I'm right.
You're correct.
So that's your support crew essentially as you're going around. What's the interaction with those, Rosie? Is there any point of chat? Are you allowed to have a bit of a drink? Are you allowed to have food? Because it's a long period of time.
Yeah, so all these swims are under English Channel rules, because the English Channel is the creme de la creme when it comes to open water swimming. So it's the usual, which is for us is just your normal hat, pair of goggles and swimming togs. You cannot be touched or helped in any way. You can be water bottle is given or thrown down to you. You can't be in contact with anyone. So anything you want, then if you wanted to have, we'll say a bite of banana or that slice is put into a cup, you take it out of the cup while you're treading water. So you're not supported in any way. But in the case of Catalina, you have a big support boat, which was called Bottom Scratcher, which really, I just love it. I love all of it. So you have Bottom Scratcher with the Munster and Irish flags hanging off it, which always give me huge inspiration for any of my swims. You know, the one that I use for Munster is "To the brave and the faithful, nothing is impossible." So I suppose that's kind of a mantra for me when I'm swimming. And the other person that I had that was with me for the whole time was Grace van der Bly, and she would have my drinks on her kayak. So instead of having to go near to the boat for it to be thrown down, she'd actually pass it over to me, throw it over to me at a better level. So, and yes, I could interact. You can hear what people are saying. You can hear, you know, I just don't like... When I'm doing a swim, I do it for myself. My family know what I'm doing, and afterwards, then we support Orla's Wild Ways, which is the three charities, two of which Anthony supported when he was with us. So very few people knew what I was doing. So it would be messages from home, and you know. Oisin says, or Pat says, or Brendy would be on the phone, or Sheaffer would be saying, "How's Mammy doing?" That kind of thing. So you get that type of stuff, but not a lot of it, you know. Feeding plan kind of goes from roughly every half an hour or thereabouts. So you just look forward to it. And I suppose that's where rugby and really sets you up really well. You go from set play to set play. So in swimming, in my head, I'm kind of doing something similar. I'm going from one feed to the next feed, enjoying what's around. You know, the stars were out, the warm water. I could hear pods of dolphins around me. I was very aware of that. And like, I suppose the word I would think of is it's a privilege really to be able to, you know, enjoy and aim for all these lovely goals that you can go for and be. I'm so lucky to be supported in my home life and, you know, with the people around me to allow me to do that. So I do feel very lucky and very privileged, yeah.
It's funny, Rosie, as Adrian mentions, only 279 people have done it. Like, it strikes me that over 600 people have been to space. So there's twice as many astronauts as there are people that have done this, which puts it into context a bit. But like, which, you know, psychologically, in terms of start, middle and end of a 16-hour swim, what's the most difficult part? Because obviously at the start your body is freshest, but you have the furthest distance to go. So how do you manage that, and maybe which segment is the most difficult?
It's like you know, again, it's the whole sport, you know, and sport getting you ready for all parts of your life. Obviously you're really, really nervous in the few days, the couple of days, 24 hours really beforehand. You know that, you know, the start is you have to be at the dock at 6:30 tomorrow evening in San Pedro in California, and you know that that's coming. So it's just like you're getting ready for any other kind of game. It's, you know, you get your carbs on, you know, I mean, I wear a red, funnily enough, a red swimming togs with the Munster and Irish emblem on it and my name on it with Foley 8 on the back of it, you know, to remember Anthony, because I mean he used to have great crack when we were swimming. But like, I would think of things like that. I would think of matches and I suppose part of it, and I suppose the nerve-wracking bit, I suppose, is, you know, as you're about to start, that I'm not getting out till I finish, because that's, I suppose, my mindset in has always been. But I suppose there are times, usually about halfway-ish, and I never ask the time. I don't ever want to know how far we've gone or how much we have left, because when you're in water, the land can seem closer to you than it actually is. That was something that, you know, a very wise person said to me before I ever went about open water swimming and swimming the channel, and that don't look to the land mass, because it is that. So I suppose it's kind of going from segment to segment in my own mind, and I think of people, and I think of lists, and I think of all sorts of things when it gets tough, you know. I mean, I'm not getting out on, you know, I would get out if obviously you were told by the boat captain that it was unsafe, or that you were actually a risk to yourself. But other than that, it's really trying to galvanize your head. And I mean, anyone that I spoke to, and at times I dip in and out of actually Damien when he was rowing across, and I could see, and I suppose empathize with a lot of what he was doing. Obviously, it's a very long time he was rowing as well, but in your own mind, you have those what they call kind of dark moments of the soul in one sense, but because I suppose we were always taught that you live in the present, and my parents, I have to thank for that, because when we were growing up, they never ever let you assume that it was drummed into you. Never assumed you were going to be playing the next day, and that really meant for us that you did your best for whatever you were doing at that time, and you never assumed, but you never gave anybody an in to your jersey either. So you always try to do your best. So I suppose it goes back for years and years and years that is really galvanized into your head, and it does certainly come from my parents. Yeah.
You mentioned the charities that you've been involved as well with, Orla's charities, with the Midwestern Cancer Foundation, with Cry and Carry, which give screening and bereavement counselling for families at risk of SADS. And we'll send out the details of those from our social media accounts as well, so people can jump on at idonate.ie, I think, to get involved in it. And you've mentioned Anthony a couple of times, and it's his 6-year anniversary, I think, on Sunday, Rosie. Yeah. And it struck me actually, even over the last week, listening to you on various bits and pieces, it's brilliant. Every time you hear his name been reintroduced into the national conversation, it's a great chance for everybody to remember what a man he was. At home, I presume you still talk about him at home and at the home place, or is it hard, or how do you manage that?
Oh no, he's very much around us all the time, we'll say. So his son Tony and Dan, they're actually the same ages as my 2 older boys, so Oisín and Brendy. I mean, yeah, life is funny like that. They're inside in St. Munchin's, and Anthony loves St. Munchin's. Anthony's repeated he's leaving certain St. Munchin's to go on that famous tour to New Zealand with Declan Kidney and the boys. And actually that group of Anthony's schoolboy friends from that schoolboy tour are very much in our lives now. So rugby and that support is very much still around us. Anthony's very much with us. My son Oisín was lucky enough to get called up to the under-18 rugby schools squad last week. So the last person in our family that did that was Anthony. So he's very much there. Obviously they play with St. Munchin's. They also play here with Smith O'Brien's. They play their hurling here with Smith O'Brien's still. And again, it's our community, it's sporting community. So, I mean, Anthony's very much, around us, and like I would say stuff to him all the time in my head, like,
Yeah.
There's still that healthy, I suppose not rivalry, but like he's never far from us, particularly, obviously this time of year, but I mean, like he's with us every day. The lads head off to school, they're on the pitches that Anthony played in, they're meeting Anthony's friends, and then people who played with Anthony, their kids are now playing against our guys, like the Sheehans in Cork. I mean, they've played against each other. They're all great friends. They all connect really well. You go up to Clemboyd, up in Belfast and that, and Gareth Davis and their boys were all playing in different squads for Ulster over the summer. We all met up down in Musgrave Park because all the games were on. So that, he's very much with us. He's very much around us, which is lovely to see. Yeah, and it's lovely to have.
We've Rosie had a couple of these conversations on the show recently about people who've been recently bereaved, and we had the teammates of Dylan Quirk, the young Tipperary hurler, on the show yesterday, and the father of Ogie Duffy on the show quite recently as well. But I think that's such an important thing you've touched on there, and it's, I guess it's talking about the person as well, and not being afraid to talk about the person, because look, as Ger mentioned yesterday, Irish people are great at funerals and wakes, but it's what comes afterwards and the years that follow afterwards that maybe need more attention.
Well, definitely, and I'm not saying that any of it is easy, and as you've mentioned, lots of people will tell you there's really good days and there's bad days, and as it comes up to his anniversary and that. So yesterday Oisín, as I said to you, was 17. the last time we actually saw Anthony before he passed away in Paris was with Oisin, with us here in our family home, and he was taking them off to hurling training. So after we had the cake, and he always tried to make the cake no matter where he was. It was something that we had as a family. You know, the birthday, you always try to make the birthday, regardless of whose birthday it was, by the way. You know. And he took them off to hurling training above in Smith O'Brien's, and then brought them back that evening, brought them back home. And actually he headed then to Declan Kidney's wife Anna had passed in Cork. Himself and Dad had headed down to that, and that was actually the last time that I saw Anthony alive. So yesterday it would have been, you know, certainly he'd have been very much in my mind, you know, being the last time that I would have seen him.
Yeah. How will you mark it on Sunday, Rosie? There's been such an unbelievable amount of public showing of affection for him over the years with the many high profile things that have happened, and even the Jack Carty presentation was it last year on the 5-year anniversary. How will you mark it as a family on Sunday?
Well, my husband's Pat, his mother actually is dead 20 years coming the end of October. So there's a mass for Eileen Minogue in Scariff, and at 11 on here in Killaloo. Regardless of the day of the week it is, we go to mass. We go to mass, and we think of Anthony, and are very thankful that, you know, that we had such good memories and good times with him. And yes, there's no doubt, like, we really, really miss him from our lives for, you know, family occasions. And that it's also my grandmother Jane's anniversary on Sunday. So I suppose in my head, I suppose I kind of think, you know, he's with Granny Jane, you know, who I was very close to when I was growing up. So I suppose we try and comfort ourselves in that. But it's like everything, life will go on. I mean, I think Dan, Anthony's younger son, has a rugby match with Shannon and that, you know. So it's very much, you know, I suppose we think of him and we go on, and the reason we do that is that sport meant so much to him, and it does to us. So, you know, I suppose it's just the way we go on. But you know, it's a tough old time.
Of course
really.
it is. Of course it is. And a lot of things coming full circle, as you mentioned there as well, particularly in the rugby space, and we'll be keeping an eye out on that. You can be certain over the next couple of years as well. All Ireland winner with Clare, 39 caps for Ireland, 2 Rugby World Cups, the Triple Crown of swimming. You mentioned about the landmark birthday upcoming. Is that it? Are you done? Is that, you going to give your parents a bit of peace now, or what's the story?
I've promised all my kids. Oh, well, I don't know if I'm done. There's definitely I have a few friends down in Baltimore. There's lovely Fastnet is down there. There's a lovely swim down there that I've been dying to do for years. So Steve Redmond and Noel Brown, you know, I've had them beat, I suppose, for the last few years. But local, I think, you know, and around, there's plenty of lovely places to swim here. I swim an awful lot with Tralee Bay swimmers down in beautiful Feenet. We've a place down there in Banna that we spend an awful lot of time down in. So I've great friends down there. And, you know, it's some of the roughest times, you know, I've found real solace in open water swimming, and the community around that as well, and you're kind of free. Your mind, as I've looked into it a good bit, it's like you have your mind it's like a blue mind. It's like, I suppose, you're free from everything in one sense. You can really relax. It's kind of, people will talk about wellness and, you know, stillness and that, and that's where I find mine. And for me personally, it's all about swimming and, you know, open water and just being around nature in that way. I absolutely adore it. So I'm really lucky to have great friends out in 2 Mile Gate with the swimming women out in 2 Mile Gate. And when I go down to Feenet, down to Tralee Bay Swimming Club, I mean, great buddies down there as well. And, you know, some of them, you know, we know each other's first names, and we chip away, and it's fantastic from that. You know, they just know me as a swimmer, or they used to know me as a swimmer, and they still do. Lots of them, that's all they know me as, Rosie, who comes down from Killaloo and swims.
And like, look, lovely messages coming in. Michael Collins says Catalina beat swimming down the 2 Mile Gate that you've just mentioned. Well done, Rosie, incredible achievement. Up the banner. And Peter English says beats the long nights in the works. Well done, Rosie. All the best. So lots of lovely messages coming in. It's been great spending a bit of time in your company to hear about about the detail of it to reflect a little bit on Anthony's life as well. And as I said, it's all for Orla's charities that she's put together, the Midwestern Cancer Foundation, Cry and Carry, and we'll put out the details of those on our social media account. Fair play, Rosie. Thanks a million.
Thanks so much, boys. Thanks a million.
Good on you. Cheers, Rosie Foley.
Thank
there. Incredible achievement, really, in so many ways.